Hi there, today we are going through the production planning form and I am giving detailed instructions on how to complete this accurately so that you can continue making your product and finish on time. And also it enables you to know exactly what you are doing. It encourages you to look at the recipe and make sure you understand everything in the recipe, and so that you order all the ingredients that you need. So the first thing we need is the recipe name. So let's say something like you're doing mini quiches. You would write that there. And if you wanted to add some more detail like vegetarian, then you could add that there as well. So number of serves, it doesn't actually serve a certain amount of people, but it may make something like 10. This is where you put the source for your web link. Okay, so this means that your teacher can go back and check your recipe online to make sure that you've collected everything, or that if you forget your recipe when you come into class that day, we know what the link is that you used so that we can use the recipe straight from the internet or cookbook, whichever one you're going to use. The estimated preparation time is what you put in here is everything excluding the cooking time. So from the time that you walk into the classroom to the time that you end, anything that doesn't involve cooking goes into this estimated preparation time. So if you only have 70 minutes for a class and your dish takes 20 minutes to cook, you really want to make sure your estimated cooking time is 50 minutes or less. So that's where you would put something like, I estimate that this is actually only going to take me 30 minutes of preparation time because the cooking time of it is 25 minutes. Cookery processes are the things that you list under cookery processes and terms. This is where you would list things like the rubbing in technique, the creaming method, any process or term that's used in the recipe that needs you to define it. I wouldn't be so much looking at basic things like preheat, but certainly terms like saute would go in here. If it's said to, the saute would actually go in the cooking method. My apologies. So these are the cooking processes and terms. Things like if you're going to be julienning your vegetables, then write that term here so that you know what that term means. Safety rules over here are the things that you're going to follow when you do that cookery process. So if it's using a knife, you would go through the major things that you're going to be following when you're using a knife. Cooking methods down here is where you would put sauteing. So here you would put saute, the definition, and then you would put some safety rules that you would need to follow when using that technique. If it's roasting as well, you would also need to define the term roasting and also include that as your safety rules too. Specialised equipment is anything that's not found at your workbench. So if there are no beaters at your workbench, electric beaters, you would have to record them here. If there is no food processor and you need to use a food processor, you would put that term here. You wouldn't put a saucepan if there are already saucepans available for you to use in the classroom without needing your teacher to get that equipment for you. So this is really specialised equipment that the teacher and the assistant know we have to get ready for you before the class begins. And we also expect you to go into the research of the safety rules for that equipment. So if you are using the food processor, you would be discussing what safety measures you're going to follow when you're using the food processor. On to the next section here is your recipe card. So this is where you include all of your ingredients. This also tells us what you need for class. So we need this in advance of you cooking. You can't turn up with this the day before, because we can't get the ingredients for you the day before. So your teacher will give you a set date that you need to have your food ordered by, and this will be due by that set date. So pantry items are anything that you would be storing for dry storage at home. Let's say I needed 1 cup of flour. I would write 1 cup Your teacher might prefer you write that in grams. Please check with them. So another one might be half a cup of sugar. And I want to make sure it's caster sugar. So I'm writing that there. If I needed 1 onion, I would write that there. And even if I just needed half a carrot, I would write that there, because I might have someone else in the classroom who also needs half a carrot. So the teacher doesn't really want to buy one for each of you and waste money and waste food. So please write exactly what you need just there. We do prefer that these are written in quantities rather than grams. Refrigerated items are anything like dairy, meat that you would find in the refrigerator. Frozen items are anything like, let's say, instead of saying 1 packet of pastry, you might say 1 sheet of pastry. And if you don't like that going down to those next row, you can always decrease the size of your writing just there to make sure that fits. This is anything miscellaneous that you might need. So you might just go, oh, I need 1 thing of foil, like I need foil, so that's got to go in miscellaneous. It might be that you need 6 patty cases, patty muffin size cases, so they would be written there. Okay, anything that's miscellaneous that doesn't fit into these items but you still need them to cook with. Over here is where you start writing your task. This is where it gets a little bit confusing. From the time you walk into the classroom to the time you leave the classroom, everything needs to be recorded here. This is so that we know and you know that you will finish on time. So the first thing that you do when you walk into the classroom is your teacher marks the roll. So that really goes right there, and that would generally take 5 minutes. So each one of these little blocks here is a 5-minute increment. So the next thing you might do is you're going to tie back your hair, wash your hands, and put on an apron. You might also collect and measure your ingredients. So all of that time would take another 5 minutes. So therefore you go over to the next level of increments there. So the one after that you might do is you might cut or wash and cut all the vegetables. So that would take easily another 5 minutes. What you also could do in that little break of time is fill a saucepan with water and set at a high temp to boil. Okay, so that would actually go there as well. So the next one that you might do after that is make the marinade for the meat and cut up the meat. Put the meat in the marinade, and you might give yourself another 5 minutes to do that task. And the next one is that you might cook the pasta in the boiling water that you had earlier. So that's actually going to take only a few moments to do, but the pasta will take about 10 or 15 minutes to do. So meanwhile, while that's cooking, you can do other tasks as well, like wash your dishes that you've already made. And the other thing you might do is make your salad. So after that would be possibly bringing that over to around about here, 10 minutes. And therefore the pasta would be cooked, so it would be drain the pasta and rinse with cold water place in the refrigerator to cool. So once you've done that, that would be another 5 minutes, and so on until you're actually finished your recipe. Obviously, these are directions not for mini quiches, but it gives you the idea of what you're doing. Down here, you would make any notes about any adjustments you've made to the recipe. So that is how you do your recipe card and production planning form.